Hi everyone! Good morning! We are the Group 3 and we are tasked to discuss about graphic organizer strategy. To start with, let us define what is graphic organizer.
Graphics refer to visual images that convey crucial information or provide static appeal to the information presented. A few common examples of graphics are icons, illustrations, photographs, graphs, diagram, maps, art, and animation. So it means that graphics are visuals and displays that organize ideas. It demonstrates different informations and concepts. They are also designed to improve learning outcomes for students, review information, and helpful in arranging information.
Why use graphic organizers? First, it facilitates critical and creative thinking. Graphic organizers allow the learners to focus only on the highlighted essential components. It enables them to find necessary connections that could unveil answers to problems and issues in daily living. Second, it organizes information. The human mind is designed to store information using a series of networks. As we live day by day, we encounter various experiences which contribute to what we know. Graphic organizers give us an opportunity to organize and evaluate the existing and new knowledge that we encounter. Third, it shows relationship. One good relationship example that is always used is the broad to specific relationship. It is sometimes called a part-part whole relationship, which identifies the number and its components. Fourth, it allows self-directed learning. The good thing about graphic organizers is that it can be used for independent learning among the learners. This is because it is much easier for the learners to grasp information and see connections. Fifth, it encourages interaction. This form of teaching strategy literally engages the learners to participate in class activities. Since they appreciate its visual nature, the motivation to learn comes next. And lastly, it is a form of assessment. Teachers can assess learning both before and after discussion. It could be both done informative and summative assessment.
Using graphic organizer in instructions reveals many positive outcomes, but it is not easy. So there are recommended procedures to make it easy. First is to familiarize the types of graphic organizers for you to know when to use it. And second is introduce to students and its significance for the students to know what graphic organizer is and what is important upon using it. And third is present the specific graphic organizer for a topic. It is in line with number 1, wherein you should know what specific graphic organizer to use for presenting a topic. Fourth is use examples to illustrate the use of graphic organizers for the students to be guided on how to use graphic organizers. And also, not all students will learn without the use of examples. And fifth is assign the graphic organizer as an activity. It could be an individual, paired, or group activity for them to apply their knowledge about graphic organizers that we presented or introduced to them. And last is to review students' work for you to assess their improvements upon understanding graphic organizers and generate classroom discussion of the effective use of graphic organizer.
There are many different forms of graphic organizers, each with its unique way of organizing and displaying specific bits of information. But for now, let's give more emphasis to these 3 types of graphic organizers, namely the compare and contrast, position and pattern, and identify an image. So let's have first the compare and contrast. Making a comparison and contrast is a means of seeing how things can be similar and different. Things may be alike because they belong to the same grouping, but there are also some ways that they are different. As a teacher, compare and contrast is an effective strategy that helps students evaluate various aspects of a text. It prepares students for higher level analysis of text. When students compare and contrast, they are improving their comprehension of the text by drawing their attention to important details. A more commonly used type of comparison and contrast is the Venn diagram. It is used to show a compare and contrast relationship between 2 or more concepts. It is not uncommon to find it used for subjects such as English. English teachers, however, use it as a pre-writing practice and for a compare and contrast. Also, the use of Venn diagrams has been suggested in the literature because they allow students to see diagrammatically many of the key components in multiple regression. This is a great way to organize thoughts. For example, here is a Venn diagram that compare and contrasts the two main characters of the story entitled Dead Stars. Here are Esperanza and Julia Salas. They both are forgiving and fell in love with one man, Alfredo Salazar. Now, Esperanza is a person with integrity and moral stance, while Julia Salas is a person who knows her place if someone is already into a relationship. Here are the steps in applying and using compare and contrast in the teaching-learning process. Tell students to brainstorm their ideas. Ask them to draw two overlapping circles. Have students write the differences in the edges of the circle and similarities in the overlapping space. Have students write topics being compared on the top of each circle and write the differences or unique characteristics inside its sectors and list the similarities in the common area. And as a teacher, we must give or provide feedbacks about their work.
The second type of graphic organizer is the position and pattern. This type of graphic organizer will help students and teachers to easily visualize, pinpoint, and determine the relationship between one concept with another. Aside from that, it will also show events and concepts in chronological order and patterns that occurs and reoccurs in different events and contexts. It will also visualize cause and effects, sequences, and timeline. An example of this type of graphic organizer is the cause and effect chain. In cause and effect chain, students can use to clarify the relationship between specific events and the outcomes deriving from them, thus illustrating the concept of consequences, inevitability, and causality. Let's take a look in this example. The class has a reading on the story entitled The Goose That Laid a Golden Egg. And let's pretend that at the end of the reading, the teacher will task them to have a graphic organizer on the cause and effect of events that happen in the story. For example, cause number 1 is there was a goose that laid a golden egg, and the possible effects for that is the owner of the goose become rich. Cause number 2 is that the male owner decided to kill the goose, and the effect for that is the goose died and no more golden eggs. So now, let's talk about the steps on how to apply cause and effect chain in the teaching and learning process. First, provide the students an overview of the story details, especially the important event that happened in the story. After, choose an appropriate graphic organizer to be used, which is the cause and effect chain. Second, during the reading of the story, let the learners identify the events and important actions in the story by taking down notes. Third, students will determine whether the events or action they listed are cause or effect. Lastly, students will finalize the graphic organizer by filling in the event in the category of cause or effect.
So another type of organizer is identify and imagine type. This type of organizer uses various shapes and forms to visually represent several concepts or pieces of information. Moreover, it helps in presenting information in a way that is easier to comprehend by breaking down larger or complex concepts or ideas into smaller and simpler parts. So one perfect example of this is concept map or concept mapping. A concept map is a special form of a web diagram for exploring knowledge and gathering information. One of the uses of a concept map is that it helps learners create connections between the main idea and other information. Also, concept map aids in processing, storing, and retrieving information as it provides a visual representation of knowledge which make it easier to retrieve and process information. In addition, concept map allows students to analyze relationships among ideas. So how is concept map being used in the teaching learning process? There are steps that the teachers take in using the concept map. First, teachers introduce the big concept that is familiar to all the students. For example, the teacher asks the students, what is the literature? So the word literature there becomes the big concept that the students need to focus on or make connections with. Second, the teacher asks students to have words which they can associate to the concept being focused on. For example, literature can be associated with the word language, text, stories, and many more. So the third step is that teachers will tell or instruct learners to use various shapes and arrows to clearly see or provide connection of the words to the main concept. Fourth, teachers ask students to create or connect the words and build an organized thought. This is the time where students are asked to create a definition or a statement about the big concept. And lastly, teacher provides feedback about the concept mapping that the learners have created. In a nutshell, using graphic organizers are a great way in making the learners learn their lesson. It is easy, fun, and simple to use in the teaching learning process. Moreover, it doesn't only make the learners learn their lesson, but it also fosters creativity and enhance their critical thinking skills, which are relevant or important as they go through their journey as students and as an individual. And that ends our video presentation about the graphic organizers. I hope you have learned something from it. Thank you for listening and goodbye.